Hello, welcome back to the YouTube channel. I haven't made a video in a hot second, but I'm really felt called to make this video today because there's just been like some really incredible and transformative things that have happened in my life in the last couple of months, and I thought you guys might enjoy hearing about it. So this is like no script, by the way. Usually my videos I have like a script, I got it all planned out, but I'm just kind of gonna fly off the seat of my pants for this one because I feel like it'll just be more natural and hopefully more inspiring than my usually structured videos. So anyway, today I want to talk about how the universe will literally drop a brick on your head to get you to pay attention to something that it wants you to know. And I used this analogy one time. A friend came to me asking like, oh my gosh, how do you like get in tune with your spirit guides and your intuition and all this stuff? Because I've always had like a really direct line to my spirit guides. That's like a whole nother video about how that came about. But anyway, so I use that analogy. I'm like, look, if spirit, if God, if the universe needs you to know something, they will drop a brick on your head, literally. And that's kind of what has happened to me, especially in the last week or two, but this goes back like a couple months, like I was saying. So, just gonna start at the beginning of this little story. I was living in California and I was set to move to Sedona for a couple of months. I found this place, it looked really nice, whatever. Well, I met someone like right before I left and we ended up having like this really heartfelt conversation, and they asked me like, okay, where do you see yourself in the future? And I kind of paused for a moment, and at the time my answer was, well, doing exactly what I'm doing right now, coaching and writing movies, which is one of my biggest passions, and hopefully in the future making my own films. So that was my answer, and then, a couple days later I was on a 7.5 hour drive by myself to Sedona, and I'm like, wait a minute, like, that was such a powerful question because where do I really see myself in the future? And it's funny that it stumped me so much because I've spent a lot of my life, writing a vision for my life, planning things out, really envisioning that. I'm a very like future-oriented person, that's like the Aquarius in me, I like to see the bigger picture and I like to be innovative and things like that. But I really started thinking about it, and I've always been into like manifestation, so I have so much faith in scripting and planning out the vision for your life, things like that. But then I just realized, I'm like, wait a minute, what do I really want in the future? And my answer was really simple. I said, all I really want, where I see myself in the future, is to be happy. And that's really what we try to get from all of this manifestation stuff. That's why we want that certain relationship, that's why we want that certain job, that certain lifestyle, that certain house, we want it so that we're happy. And so that kind of like peeped the door open on this whole new way of life, if you will. And so I get to Sedona, and I was like walking on the trail the first morning I was there, like just taking in the beautiful scenery. Sorry if you hear construction noises, they're fixing my driveway outside and it's kind of loud. I hope you can't hear it, but anyway. So I'm walking on this trail and I'm just like, universe, I'm like, I would really love a mentor right now. Like, preferably a woman mentor, just somebody who's going to inspire me while I'm here. So I walked down the trail, and I don't know if you've ever been to Sedona and gone hiking, but it's really hard to tell like where the trails are. And so I'm walking around. I got lost like 5 times. I kept veering off the trail and then realizing that I wasn't on the trail and like kind of panicking, like going back on the trail. Finally I find my way back to like the main trail, and I'm almost done with like the little loop that I was doing on my hike. And I look up and there's this older woman sitting on these rocks, and she's like, hi, how's it going? And we ended up striking up conversation, and she was really into the Course in Miracles and teaching the Course in Miracles, and like we exchanged information, and she invited me to her class. I go to one of her classes, and this is after like my little shift of realizing like that all I was really trying to manifest was to be happy. A lot of parts of my life started to become like really meaningless. Like, for instance, my manifestation coaching business suddenly I'm like, can I even stand behind this? Can I even stand behind the manifestation? Because all that we really want is to be happy. So getting really specific about type of relationship, which is kind of the coaching I was doing, like some like relationship coaching and helping people manifest their soulmate. I'm like, can I even really stand behind this? And so I was having this whole like paradigm shift, and I was feeling really confused. And then I go to this Course in Miracles class, and they were talking exactly about that. It was like the most perfect situation ever. By the way, I will get back to why the universe will drop signs in your path, but just bear with me. So I go to this class, and they're talking all about that, like really, I forget exactly what the lesson was, but it was so spot on with everything that I was going through, and it was just like that confirmation from the universe, like, you're on to something here, realizing that, you know, what your ego wants, what the ego mind wants to manifest, and that's just really a search for happiness, but your ego can't possibly know what's best for you, because that comes from that divine source. Like, that's really, that comes from a deeper place of inspiration, of our true like life's purpose. That's not going to come from the ego. So all this stuff and feeling like we need to have our lives planned out and have this vision planned out and everything, that's really just coming from the ego and the ego's need to control. So then I was like, well, this is like mind-blowing to me, because I've been in this law of attraction manifestation mode for so long. And I'm like, what would happen if I just surrendered to the divine plan? Like, I just asked the universe, I'm like, show me the path to my happiest, most fulfilled self. Like, whatever that looks like, I'm going to let go of control, and I'm going to hand it over to God, to the universe, to live that for me, to bring that into my life. And I'm going to put my ego aside, I'm going to put my mind aside about needing to make a certain amount of money, needing it to look a certain way, and I'm just like, universe, live through me, like, I surrender to it. Well, all at the same time, I was supposed to be in Sedona for a couple of months, and the place I ended up staying at had like a huge mold issue, and I couldn't stay there very long, so it wasn't making me feel well. It just wasn't a healthy environment, so I had to leave early after like just a month there. So I decided to go back to California where I was and just spend a week there and whatever. In that course of the week, I got 2 or 3 different recommendations to read a specific book, like from videos that I watched, people that I follow. They're like, read this book, it's great. Didn't really know anything about the book. The book was The Surrender Experiment. And even the title, I'm just like, this sounds like my life right now. Like, this is what I'm doing with my life. I asked the universe for me to just surrender it. So I didn't really know what the book was about, but the title caught me, didn't read it, whatever. Ordered the book, I opened the book, and on the first page, or like on the back or something, I realized that this whole story pretty much takes place in Gainesville, Florida. Well, I grew up in Ocala, Florida, which is literally just like an hour south of there, and I never knew about this book, about this guy's life, nothing. If you have not read The Surrender Experiment, The Surrender Experiment is about this guy, and he lives in Gainesville, and he has decided that he just wants to spend his life meditating in the woods and not listening to that voice in your head, because he realized that we are so much more than that voice in our head. We are what hears the voice in our head. And so he wanted to devote his life to tuning into what was behind that voice in the head. And so he built a cabin in the woods, and one thing leads to the next, and basically it's a story about this guy that just, he surrenders his life, and he calls it the Surrender Experiment, where he just is going to make meditating and connecting with God his most, like the most important thing in his life. And one thing led to the next. At some point he ended up having several different businesses, one of which was, he was like the first person to digitalize all the medical records in like doctor's offices and stuff. And so he ended up building like a $300 million company out of his little property in Gainesville, Florida, which is still there. Also, he did build a temple there, and I just so happened to be going to Florida like in a couple of weeks, so I'm like, well, obviously I have to go visit the Temple of the Universe in Gainesville. And believe me, it is like way out. If you go visit it, I highly recommend, if you're in Florida, just go see it. It's really beautiful. But anyway, So that was like super inspiring book because I was on this whole path of like, here God, I just want to surrender my life to the plan because I can't possibly know what's best for me. I can't possibly know what's going to make me happy. And so I surrender, and I kept getting signs like to do horses again, because for those of you who don't know me, I've spent most of my life riding horses, training horses, buying and selling horses. Like, I'm a horse girl. And so I've taken a break from that for a little while, intermittently, you know, here and there. Like, I'll do it off and on and whatever. So I was currently on a break, and I kept getting these signs to do horses. Well, then, you know, of course, all my programming, I decided to talk myself out of doing that. I did end up moving to California. Let me slow down a little bit. So I go visit the Temple of the Universe. I was set to move back to California in a couple of weeks. I had all these places to live, like, lined up to go look at when I got there. And I get out here and I go look at all the places I had lined up, and they all sucked. Like, they were nothing like I thought they were gonna be. I thought I had it all planned out and that it was all gonna work out beautifully, whatever. Did not work out at all. So I was feeling like really defeated, and I'm like, universe, this is haha, like, I see you. I need to surrender this, don't I? Because I'm trying to control this whole situation. So I'm like, okay, hands up, like, show me the way. The next day, I get like a little intuition, a little intuitive guide to just go back on Facebook Marketplace and like look one more time for places. And I found this room, and I had seen the ad several times and just kind of went past it. But I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna go look at this place. Come to this place, and there's just like a vibe here. And I was like, okay, yes, I'm home. Like, this is the place. And turns out I am living with like the most incredible people. I could not have picked it better myself. It's like a few blocks from the beach. The location's amazing. It's like in my dream location. The people, like I said, couldn't have asked for better people to live with. They're all like super spiritual and conscious and just like inspiring and amazing. So I ended up here through the act of surrender. Well then, if I hadn't learned my lesson good enough with that whole situation after feeling like super defeated and realizing that the universe had a plan that I couldn't even perceive, I decided to go get a part-time job because, you know, that's what people do in the real world, and I didn't have a job at the time, and so I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna go get a job, I'm gonna work in retail and do this whole thing. So I go to my first like official interview, job interview ever. Sorry, I'm just gonna move the camera a little because the sun is like reflecting off my mirror and it keeps moving. Anyway. So I go my first real job interview ever, and I've never had a conventional job in my life. I've always trained horses. I've always like done coaching or like random stuff. So I go to this job interview. It went well. I got the job. They're like, you can try it this week. Start the job. The job is fine. It's at like a clothing boutique. It's cool, like not really my thing, but it's fine. The universe will speak to you in big ways when you are not listening. Apparently somewhere along the line I stopped listening to my divine inner guidance because the universe had to drop not one but two bricks on my head, so to speak. In that week that I was working at the boutique, I got in a little fender bender car accident deal. That was a whole situation. My computer got hacked. I had to like freeze all my bank accounts. It was just like one thing after the next, complete chaos, and these things usually never happen to me, and I'm like, what is happening? So I'm like, okay, universe, I see you. So I decided to ultimately quit the job. I had to take a huge leap of faith to do this, and I'm like, okay, show me the way. So I wake up the next morning and I'm still like in, you know, mental program mode where I'm like, I gotta go find a new job. And the universe is just like I got this intuition, and it's like, don't try and find another conventional job right now. Like, just don't do it. Focus on something else. So I did. A couple hours later, I had sent a message to a friend a couple weeks prior who rides horses, and I didn't hear from her, and I was like, oh, that's strange. But she happens to be kind of in this area for the winter, and she messages me back, and she's like, oh, I just am now seeing this message, like, do you want to come work for me? And and do this for the next couple of weeks. I'm like, sure, there you go. And it was just such a testament that the universe always has your back. Like, I had no idea this job was going to come and exist. I had no idea that was going to happen, but lo and behold, out of thin air, like, the universe already had a plan for me to get back on track. And I'm happy to say, like, no more chaotic events have happened since then. So, moral of the story, if the universe needs you to know something, it will drop a brick on your head. The signs will be obvious. Also, when we are trying to manifest stuff, all we're really trying to do is manifest things to be happy. And our ego and our, societal programming doesn't always know what's going to make us happy. That's something that needs to be surrendered to the greater divine plan, to the universe, to God, and follow your intuition, because your intuition and your direct line to source, that's really what's going to guide you to your happiest life. It's not going to come from thinking you know how to plan everything out, because that just makes life really, really hard. Like, my life was so hard when I was trying to plan everything out, and then as soon as you surrender, you get to relax and just be like, okay, show me the way, be patient, and everything falls into place better than you could even ever expect it to. And that to me is like one of the most magical things in life. So if I've learned anything over the last couple months, it's that listen to your inner guidance, because your inner guidance knows best. Put your ego aside and just listen to the whispers of your soul. Or maybe you will get a big slap in the face from the universe and it will wake you up like it did me. So whether you're experiencing it subtly or not so subtly, the universe is always speaking to you, trying to guide you to your happiest life. So I know that was a little bit of a long video. I hope it made sense. I'd like to start making more videos like this, where it's more like podcast style, just me talking rather than like a scripted video, like I said. One more thing I want to add. When I left Sedona, I also decided to stop coaching, which was a huge thing that I had to leave behind. I say leave behind, I feel like coaching's always kind of going to be like in my life in some way, but the way that I was going about it and my niche and everything, it just didn't feel right, and I had to put it aside. Like, my higher self came through literally one day when I was meditating, and it was just like, you need to put that aside and you need to make writing a priority right now, because that's like what you need to be doing. And so I did, and it took so much to be able to let that go. It brought up so many fears, it brought up so many feelings, but all of that coming up was like an amazing opportunity for me to work through those parts of my shadow, those parts of my belief system and societal programming that said I need to have a job and hustle and do all this stuff. And so anytime that we do get a brick dropped on our head, or your higher self comes through and like screams a message at you, those are all great opportunities to take a step back and to trust that there is a plan in place that's greater than you could ever imagine. And yeah, so that is my story, and I really want to just say that I really hope that this channel ends up going in the direction of making more videos about this whole like surrender experiment and surrendering and realizing the magic in life, because life can be super magical when you let go of that control. So I hope you enjoyed. I hope you have a very beautiful and blessed day. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.